Donald Trump pardons the former Culpeper County sheriff convicted in a bribery scandal because, of course, he did. Chris Graham and Crystal Graham here from Augusta Free Press. We've both written about this story. Crystal, this is not surprising, unfortunately, from Donald Trump.
Yeah, former Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins was sentenced to 10 years in prison for accepting $75,000 in bribes. It was basically a kind of pay to play, you might say. Basically, he was giving out badges to anyone who wanted to give him money. And so he was sentenced to 10 years. He was supposed to start serving that sentence. And one day before, Donald Trump on Truth Social said basically, hey, this was a Biden problem that Biden targeted him and because he was MAGA and he was going to step in to save the day. Chris, you wrote about this on Augusta Free Press. Break it down.
Yeah, this Scott Jenkins guy is an interesting guy. He butt kissed his way into getting a pardon. He was supposed to start his prison term today, as we're recording on Tuesday, but on Memorial Day, as we're honoring those who gave their lives for our freedoms, our convicted felon president pardoned a convicted felon sheriff who took $75,000 in bribes, as you mentioned. That's kind of, I mean, come on, if you're going to sell your office, sell it for more than $75,000. Yeah, this guy, he pleaded his case to Trump. Now, not directly. He didn't get to sit in front of Trump. He went on any podcast that would have him on the far right side and basically pried his way into getting the attention of Donald Trump, who then wrote on True Social. I'll quote from it. I hate doing this. I wish I could do a better Trump voice. Sheriff Scott Jenkins, his wife Patricia, their family have been dragged through hell by a corrupt and weaponized Biden DOJ. This sheriff is a victim of an overzealous Biden Department of Justice, doesn't deserve to spend a single day in jail. He's a wonderful person who was persecuted by the radical left monsters and left for dead. He will not be going to jail tomorrow, but instead will serve a wonderful and productive life. Yeah,
That
this is,
wasn't bad. You didn't do bad with that voice,
uh,
especially in the beginning.
I
I
mean,
mean, not to
yeah,
make light of the situation because it's not
it's
a good thing.
it's you gotta make at this point. I don't know. I mean, so the quick details, the cash bribes, and bribes also in the form of campaign contributions,
Mhm.
were solicited by Scott Jenkins from co-defendants Rick Tariq Rahim of Great Falls up in Northern Virginia, a guy named Frederick Gumbinner from Fairfax, and another guy named James Metcalf of Manassas, and five others, including and this is the brilliant part when you're talking about an elected sheriff. Among the others were two undercover FBI agents. So this guy got caught by the FBI. In return for the bribes, Jenkins appointed Raheem Gumbinner and Metcalf, who've all pleaded guilty, by the way. Maybe their pardons are coming pretty soon too. As he named them all auxiliary deputy sheriffs, and he issued them official Culpeper County Sheriff's Office badges and credentials. I wish we were making this up. He also pressured local officials to approve a petition by Raheem, who, like Jenkins and like Trump as a convicted felon, to restore Raheem's right to possess a firearm. That petition falsely stated that Raheem resides in Culpeper County, which he does not. Now, it is true, okay, Jenkins was tried and convicted by the Biden Department of Justice. The conviction was handed down back in 2024, last December. The charges date back to 2023, which is when Jenkins was running for another term as sheriff. He was handily defeated in that race, finishing a distant third in a three-way race for that position. Now, the sentencing was done in March, which comes on the Trump term. The acting U.S. attorney, a guy named Zachary T. Lee, who probably is going to need to start updating his resume, gave a great quote. And
Mhm.
Crystal, you reported on this part, but the quote from Zachary T. Lee was, "Scott Jenkins violated his oath of office and the faith the citizens of Culpeper County placed in him when he engaged in a cash for badges scheme. We hold our elected law enforcement officials to a higher standard of conduct. And this case proves that when those officials use their authority for unjust personal enrichment, the Department of Justice will hold them accountable." And now we can maybe amend that to say the Department of Justice will hold people like this convicted felon sheriff accountable until the convicted felon sheriff makes a personal plea to the convicted felon president. So that's where we are with this.
Yeah, I mean, there was another case here nationally, Chris, where someone gave money to Trump, and the next thing you know, a pardon comes, right? And so it seems like, in situations like this, if you're MAGA, if you support Trump, if you fought for him on January 6th, to try to keep him in power, if you give him enough money, then he'll use his presidential power, one power that he does have unchecked, to give a pardon, right? Most of the time he's just trying to write law without Congress, which is not his right to do so. But this is one power that he does have.
The pardon power, yeah. So more about this Jenkins guy that I thought was relevant to share. He called himself a constitutional sheriff. Anybody who watched the most recent season of Fargo might be familiar with the
Mm.
character. Uh,
Yes.
the sheriff in that was a constitutional sheriff. The far right extremist doctrine that holds that sheriffs have unchecked authority to interpret and enforce the Constitution even more than the feds and the state officials above them do. They basically they treat themselves as kings, right?
Mhm.
Kind of sounds like Trump. This Jenkins guy. He actually ran for re-election in both 2019 and in 2023 with the slogan "Make Virginia Great Again." So I mean, he's a Trumper, and that's what he is. What else we need to know about this guy? Back in 2020, you might remember right before COVID, there was a big push in Virginia, the Second Amendment sanctuary movement. He vowed in 2020 to deputize thousands of his citizens to circumvent gun control regulations, which, okay, imagine that in practice. The population of Culpeper County is 55,000, just under 55,000. Let's imagine 55,000 gun nuts running around Culpeper County acting like they're deputies with the power of sheriff's deputies. That's what he was threatening to do. Crystal, when you and I go to DC, we often take the Charlottesville to DC up 29 route. We may not want to go through Culpeper County if he had deputized 55,000 of his people to be deputies there. One other thing to know about this guy, he made a post to his sheriff's office Facebook page, the official sheriff's office Facebook page back in 2020, right after the George Floyd murder and those nationwide protests. He wrote that, quote, the Black Lives Matter movement is not peaceful, and at their heart, they are violent. They may bring violence to any community at any time, and especially where they see weakness in local government officials. Now, a DC TV station reached out to him to get comment on that comment, and he made it worse. This is what he said. It's one thing to be against what they consider excessive force or high profile incidents they're talking about. It's one thing to have strong feelings about that, I understand, and they want their voices heard. I'm talking about a group that they're not saying they're anti law enforcement and that we only want to defund police. They're saying we want to kill and assault law enforcement. There's a big difference there. That's not what they were saying. But that's what this guy was thinking. And that's what this guy was. He was the law of the land in his mind in Culpeper County.
Yeah,
Um,
but so what? So Chris, just to speculate, but I mean, what happens to someone like Jenkins? I mean, he's been pardoned by the president. He was not reelected as sheriff in Culpeper County. So what does he do? What is this productive life that he's going to have?
I mean, I speculated tongue in cheek, but maybe not as tongue in cheek as possible. Don't be surprised if Trump ends up giving this guy a job. I mean, Trump is actually he's taken some people like this. That Joe Arpaio from out in Arizona, for example, he wanted to give a job to a few years ago. I don't know what this guy does. I mean, he probably becomes a consultant and makes money, consulting other constitutional sheriffs across the country. Maybe he goes and becomes a favorite on the speaker circuit, like Kyle Rittenhouse after he shot people and got off a few years ago on those charges. There'll be plenty of dumb manga groups that'll be willing to pay money to a guy like this, thinking he's a hero. Maybe he starts a website and sells T-shirts. I don't know. I mean, there's lots. It's a grift. Trump is a grift. This guy's low level grift. He's not going to get a $400 million plane from Qatar, but maybe he gets a $400 guitar from Qatar. Who knows? There's things he can get, but no, there's unlimited opportunities amongst those people. He's going to be a folk hero because as far as some of the extremists on that side are going to believe, he stood up to the Biden DOJ. He took the bribes, he put them in his pocket, and he's walking around a free man. So there are people in this country who value that for some reason. I don't understand it, Crystal.
Yeah, I don't either, Chris. Well, it was good that you got this story out there. I mean, it made national media attention as well, just because it's one of those very controversial pardons that we've heard about in recent weeks. Certainly not the only one, but the one that hits kind of close to home here. So appreciate your coverage and your insight on it. I guess it's the chapter closed, at least on that issue for Jenkins. You know, it won't be him reporting to jail and reporting to prison, you know, to serve his term. Instead, he can stay home and lead that productive life that the president has promised him. So for Augusta Free Press, I'm Crystal Graham, joined by Chris Graham. Thanks for joining us.